And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
Let's just step back into Mike's superficial and hurtful review for a second.
Mike thinks that we're picking on him. He's just registered a complaint in my ear.
Oh, did he?
I told him to fuck off. Let's continue.
So, Mike, it's going to happen. It happens to all of us at some stage in this podcast. It's not your fault. Your opinion is wrong.
Good evening and welcome to Is It a Bicycle? Season 9, Episode 20, the original and bestest ever TV and movie podcast. My name is Stephen Wrigley and I'll be your host for this evening. Beside me a man who says teenagers are so cute when they think you won't hit them. It's Mike McDonough. Also beside me is a lady who said it's a sad day for Miley Cyrus fans. You know, just in general. It's Shona, I love Canada, of Flaherty. Live from Vegas, we have a man who went to the gym this week and did just 5 sets of selfies. It's Sean Leonard. And in the red corner, it's our cuddly killer, a man who this week said, devouring souls, no calories, this app is bullshit. It's Mark, superhero Leonard. This week, we'll be discussing some movies in the shape of Hunger Games, To Kill a Bird Who's Mocking You, 8, Stink, and Sam Klemke's Time Machine, and some TV in the form of Jessica Jones. Of course, we'll have the usuals with the news and some previews and coming to a bicycle near you. How are we doing, everyone?
Fantastic, Steve.
Welcome back.
Hi, everyone.
That was very quiet and dainty.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Sorry. I'm enjoying my tea. The tea that Is It a Bicycle Studios really cannot be surpassed.
So what do we see this week?
I took my lead from one of our listeners.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, there's a new show called Flesh and Bone.
Oh, yeah.
It's right up my street. It's about ballet.
What? You serious?
Because that's the kind of show that I will run out and watch.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Did you fall for that hook, line and sinker?
Plie out and watch.
So tell us, Mike.
This is not at all what I expected. This is, well, it is a ballet show.
You expected it to be horror and SWAT teams and...
No, I expected it to be ballerinas plieing. Is that a proper verb? And generally being, I don't know, pretty and graceful and stuff like that. And it's really very adult. Like
Flesh and Bone. Is it about compound fractures?
No. Well, the lead character, she has a very sore toe. They keep coming back to that over and over again through the episode.
A hurty toe.
It really hurts. But she overcomes these obstacles to become a potential great in the world of ballet. She runs away from difficult circumstances at home to join, I think it's the American Ballet Company, they call it. Okay. And basically, they're all complete bitches.
Wait, is this reality or like a drama?
No, it's a drama. But it's quite...
so it's like Black Swan meets television.
Almost, yeah. And yeah, there's a lot of character-y kind of stuff. They don't just dance around all the time. That's actually quite a minor part of it, which makes it a bit more acceptable from my point of view.
Right.
And it seems that one of the favoured ways to make money when you're a broke dancer in New York is to
strip.
Pole dance.
Oh, that was a joke.
That's quite a big part of this show.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So they put their skills to use.
That's skills with a Z because they're mad skills.
That's right. Yeah, mad skills. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know whether to
Series link it or
I might actually give this a go. Way to go, dear listener.
It's a very, very dangerous show because on the surface you would say that it's got the female characters and the development and talky stuff for the girls, and then their partner, they have the sleazy pole dancing aspect. So you think it's a perfect watch with your significant other.
Mike, you had me in your review up into what was for the girls and what was for the boys.
Every week you get so close.
You don't get that close.
Yeah. But the problem is that this is the kind of show that could lead to horrible questions like, do you think she's prettier than me?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's girls all the time.
Yeah.
Being insecure about how they look, right?
That's right.
Mike, I think you're digging.
He's got a big shovel here.
Yeah. What do they think of the odds of me getting to the end of the show without being knifed?
Slim to
I'll
none.
take the under.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to quit while I'm ahead and just stop talking.
Good idea, Mike.
Thriller filler, Mike.
It's kind of thrillery.
Oh yeah, you'll watch more?
I might.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting that. Okay.
No, either was I.
I have to say your usage of vocabulary tonight is great. Your adverbs of thrillery. We had the show was charactery and the girls were pliéing. So top-notch English from you, Mike. Keep it up.
Thank you, Shona. I've been working hard on it.
Who saw Master of None? All of it.
I did. That was me.
Oh yeah.
I saw some of it.
And
It's great.
we saw some of it too.
Review complete.
Didn't think it was that great. Sean, you obviously thought it was great. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. They take some interesting arcs, like with individual episodes, right? So like we kind of talked about it in our initial review that there is an episode called Parents.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like Aziz Ansari and his actual father and actual mother are there, and he's trying to get closer to them because like one of them let something slip about how difficult their lives were back in India, and he's a first generation American, and he just wants to make sure he can see the latest X-Men movie on time.
Yeah.
And they just do a great thing with that, and I was like, oh, that's okay, interesting. And they do another one. They do another one called Women, where it shows Aziz having a bad night at a bar and a woman having a bad night at a bar. And Aziz's bad night is that he leaves and he steps in dog poop, and then he like cuts through the park so that he can get home faster. And the woman's is a guy that hit on her at the bar follows her home and like starts yelling at her through her door, and she has to call the cops on him.
Oh god. Yeah.
And then he has his like, because of another like sexist moment later, he has his first argument in the relationship that he's trying to work on. And it's just really interesting, how they're just being really upfront and kind of blunt about issues. Perhaps the most effective usage was an episode called Indians on TV.
I was just going to say, I think that was my favorite episode, and so thoughtful.
It's so funny, like just about like how difficult it is for an Indian actor to not get made to do accents and yada yada yada. But the best episode, in my opinion, they have one episode called Mornings, which just shows about a year of his life in a relationship, where his mornings, like as they develop, and like fights the couples have at various stages, the difficulties of staying in a relationship, and it's like a 29-minute romantic comedy. Like they managed to do a lot of work, and Aziz Ansari is really flexing his chops, like more than I think I maybe believed in him to do. So I feel kind of bad about that. But it all kind of culminates in a great 10th episode with a really, I think,
no spoilers now.
No, just substantial was the word I was going to use. It's like a substantial ending, like it's a right proper story type thing. When I wasn't really sure if that's where it was heading. But yeah, I'm really glad it's over though, because it kept cutting way too close to the bone with various scenarios, conversations, dating things. Like there's a time when he talks about how he ended up meeting like a girlfriend of his, and then he goes to his dad, how many girls did you date before mom? And he's just like, one. And he's like, what? Is that because it was arranged marriage and you had to, like, you didn't have any time? He was like, no, I met her and she was too short. And then I met your mother. She was the right size. And it was just like, holy shit. But yeah, I would highly recommend it to anyone who has any joy in their heart to go watch it. So Mike, okay. I can understand if you don't like the show.
Thanks, Sean.
You weren't a fan of it though, Steve?
Sorry? No, I wasn't a big fan of it really, no.
Really?
No, just not my kind of comedy. Well, certainly episode 1 that we saw.
See, I think episode 2 and 3 with Parents and Indians on TV are much stronger than the first episode, which I think was Kids.
Okay.
So, because I was kind of on the fence when I kind of digested that first episode. Yeah. So I'd recommend watch the second or third. Definitely watch Indians on TV. I think it's stronger than the first episode.
Okay, so
I would say stick it out for another episode.
They put the wrong one as the pilot. Then.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Sean, would you agree with that?
Yeah.
I would agree
before Sean agrees or disagrees. Would the first episode be representative of the type of humor in the rest of the series?
I don't think so. I think it gets a bit more. I think there's a bit more context and storyline.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I
think it's a bizarre
different.
pilot choice.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, like it's still in the same vein, but I think that the 2 or 3 episodes I've seen after the pilot, I consider much stronger than the pilot.
I think
Tempted just to watch them now. I kind of want to watch them. Because I hated that first episode. That was one of the least funny things we've watched this year.
Well, I don't know. Go on, Sean.
I just think you could watch like an episode pretty much up for the first 4. Any one of those episodes is fine.
Right.
Like you wouldn't actually have to watch all 4 in their order.
No.
So if you wanted to just watch one, I would suggest watching Indians on TV.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. I watched season 1, episode 1 of Into the Badlands, which is a new compelling character / martial arts drama. Yeah. So a mighty warrior and a young boy search for enlightenment in the ruthless territory controlled by feudal barons. And this stars Daniel Wu, Orla Brady, and Sarah Bulger. 2 of those 3 aforementioned are Irish, but you can't guess which 2. But and it's interesting, and I would give it a thriller, and I'll move on and watch episode 2. It does exactly what it says in the tin. It's a bit of a Mad Max with martial arts.
I was going to ask, what era is it? Is it modern, future, medieval?
It's kind of modern, bits of future, you know, bits of martial arts thrown in. For, you know, it's a different universe. You know,
you should use more E's, like modern E.
Modern E. Well, they're in a deserty kind of place.
You sound much more professional that way.
He's got a bike that's a bit motorcycle-y. Yeah. So, yeah, and what else was on?
Wait, if he's got a bike that's a bit motorcycle-y, then I have a question for you. Is it a bike?
Whoa.
That just happened.
Anything else you watched this week? Bob and David. Anyone see that? This is the new.
I saw the first part, and it seemed to be really, really hitting the fact that it came from a different show a long time ago, and it did a very long opening sketch, and with like some kind of basic toilet humor, and I was like, everyone involved in this has been better in everything else I've seen them in ever. And so I stopped watching it.
Well, you're right to stop watching it, because that's how it continued. There were 1 or 2 sketches in it that were funnier, but they kept referring back to the original joke, which wasn't that funny to begin with. So anyway, it's a pity.
That is a pity. They're talented guys.
Bob,
David Cross and Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we'll go to the news. So, is Jon Snow dead? HBO would lead us to believe that he isn't.
What are you telling me right now? What's about to happen?
I don't know. All I saw is HBO's new poster, and it shows Jon Snow for season 6. He's got a bit of blood in him. He's got a bit of shadow on him.
Eye, though. I wonder what that means. The blood on his eye, or he's missing his eye, or something, isn't he? In the poster?
I don't know.
So many questions.
He did have a lot of pointy things sticking out of him at the end of that season.
Yeah, it's true. So he faded to black, and now he'll fade to light. I don't know. Yeah.
Curious to see.
Yeah.
I can't believe we have to wait till April.
I know.
If we could just hibernate and wake up.
What else? Fargo season 3 is ordered. Yes.
Nice.
I'm not surprised on the back of season 2. It's fantastic so far. Actually, speaking of Into the Badlands, that was the 3rd largest network premiere, figures-wise, this year, after Fear the Walking Dead and Better Call Saul.
Wow.
Yeah. So it came in at 8.3 million. Yeah. So it's pretty impressive. So we posted earlier this week about Charles Lynn. He's a young filmmaker in the UK who would like to show his movies in the cinema. But first he has to submit them to the British Board of Film Classification, because a film can't be released in British cinemas without a BBFC certification. Each certificate costs around £1,000 for a feature film of average length, and that puts it, way out the scope for most independent filmmakers. So that's because the submission fee is £101, and then for per minute fee is just over £7, right?
Okay.
Right. So if you have a 90-minute movie, adds up pretty quickly, right? So the flip side is that every submission for the BBFC, they must review it in its entirety in a cinema environment, right? So he started a Kickstarter campaign to highlight this issue and submit his movie called Paint Drying. So when the Kickstarter completes, he'll submit it for the length of time this campaign will fund, and his target is 14 hours. I think it's brilliant.
And it's just watching paint dry. They'll be forced
he paints
to
a wall
watch.
and then it dries for 14 hours. So, yeah. What else is up? Oh yeah, so Zoolander 2 is in trouble already. On the basis that is transphobic, according to a community who have started a petition to boycott it. They started comparing it to blackface. At the time of posting, the petition has over 7,300 signatures. In the trailer for the upcoming film, an androgynous character played by Benedict Cumberbatch is asked by Derek Zoolander and Hansel if he is a male or female model, with the follow-up question whether or not he is a hot dog or a bun. So, according to the petition, Cumberbatch's character is clearly portrayed as an over-the-top cartoonish mockery of androgyny / non-binary individual, and this is the modern equivalent of using blackface to represent a minority. There you go. They were saying
This is the same kind of thing that happened with that TV show.
it is.
Men at Work, was it?
Can't remember the name of it now. Yeah, there was given out about it. Why didn't they use?
Two men
It was
dressed
Men at
up
Work.
as women to get jobs.
Yeah.
And it was actually really funny, but it was the quickest cancelled TV show of the year.
Yeah.
Because the LGBT in the States, was it, had the issue?
Yes, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it got
If I'm
stomped
not
pretty good.
mistaken, yeah. So are these LGBT folks up in arms again?
I'm just trying to think. Who was it exactly?
Well, it sounds like it's a transgender community.
It is. Yeah.
Should they be part of the LGBT?
Well, they're saying
They'd
by
be the T.
They would be the T. Very good.
by hiring a cis actor. You know, did you hear cisgender, CIS?
Yes, that's kind of.
The opposite of trans. Cis means one side. It means straight.
Oh, really?
Or identifies with the gender that they were born into, both mentally, physically, and emotionally.
Oh, so cis
Careful,
is like.
careful what you say next, people.
So cis means belongs to the half of, or on this half of,
Okay.
Latinized, let's say. So trans means across,
Oh.
right?
So am I cis?
Yes.
What do you call it? Cis
Yes.
person?
Yes, cisgender.
Cisgender.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There you go.
There you go. New vocabulary. Today is all about the English on your Is It a Bicycle
So
podcast.
they're saying by hiring a cis actor to play a non-binary individual in a clearly negative way, the film endorses harmful and dangerous perceptions of the queer community at large. See, this is the other thing. Why would queer community at large? Is that not a derogatory term? And this is a
Not
quote
anymore.
No. What's
I always thought it was like queer. It was just like no, not anymore.
You're,
No,
just, you're
oh,
just
they-
not keeping up with the pace of it.
I just can't get over
No, I
it.
think they've adopted the term to as self-identifying as queer. I think that's fine.
So okay,
The queer community, they.
jeez, you don't know
I've
who
heard
you're
that
insulting
term
these
used.
days.
I would just
Insulting
argue
myself.
though that every character in Zoolander is a parody of somebody. Like
this is the
it's
thing.
not like Derek Zoolander comes out making male models look great, you know, or Hansel.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the whole thing is kind of over the top. So I can see an argument for wanting to see fair portrayal of communities in film, but I would also argue that maybe Zoolander isn't the best place to do that because I don't see that.
No.
I don't know. I see
It's a
over
parody.
the top performances
Yeah.
from everybody, but
Yeah.
But it's also going to be one of the probably most quoted and talked about movies, if it's anything like Zoolander
Yeah.
itself, for like a long time. So like there is a chance, and as well, I don't think we're really all worried about the plight of the white, attractive male model, whereas we kind of do have to worry about the plight of transgendered individuals
yeah, fair point.
in America. So I don't know, like I would have to see the movie, but for all we know, it is just a bit of fun, or there's a bunch of jokes in it that people will use to make fun of people who either are transgendered or just because they want to make fun of kids at school, you know?
But do you think that's all going to come off the back of not using a transgender actor or an androgynous actor?
Well, a negative portrayal is the thing that I kind of have the issue with.
I got you now. Yeah.
But also not involving anyone of the community is going to help the negative portrayal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you actually had someone of the community, they could just be like, "What about this joke? What about a delivery of this joke? And you know what I mean?
Well, you see, I have a problem with this whole petition in that the movie isn't out yet and they don't know how it's been portrayed. All they've seen is the trailer. That would be like Jewish people watching The History of the World Part 1 or any Mel Brooks movie, you know.
Or an anti-white Star Wars movie.
Or what do you call it? What was it? If they just showed the town sheriff scene in Blazing Saddles in the trailer.
That's still pretty fucking offensive.
But the point is in that scene it is offensive, but the joke is on the ignorance of the people being offensive, and I'm hoping that this is where the laugh is coming in this movie, in that they're taking the piss out of the male models for their ignorance and not because the person is transgender or androgynous. So that's why I think that they're maybe, too early on this argument.
Well, this is why they bring it up now, though, right? Because they can actually have a conversation. Like, this has happened with a bunch of stuff. Like, there is Ken Jeong has a sitcom now called Dr. Ken, and one of the scenes that they had in one of their teasers was just pure fat shaming. So people went, "Hey, what the fuck? Like, why are you doing that?" And then they basically sent the full scene to the group of people who complained, whatever the organization was. Yeah. And they were like, "Yeah, we've watched it. It is really offensive. If you air it, we will complain." And they were like, "Yeah, it's also not that funny. Sorry." And they were just like, "Yeah, okay, we'll just put in a different scene. That's no problem." So doing that now would be different to wait until it comes out, because then you can't change anything.
Okay.
You also have to take into account the fact that there's always going to be people offended, no matter what you put up.
This is true. And, 7,300 now, not that it might not be a wordy argument.
Yeah. There was a fantastic example of that in Yale University at Halloween.
Oh.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that.
Let me guess, a costume in poor taste.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Yale is divided into halls, and each hall has a master. And there's always problems on campus about choice of disguise or what you're going to wear on Halloween. So the master of the hall issued a letter to the people in the hall saying, please be aware when you're choosing your costumes that you might be causing offense to other people. And I would advise students to exercise their common sense when choosing a costume this Halloween. Pretty inoffensive. There was a damn near riot.
Really?
Because he didn't list out an entire exhaustive list of things that could be possibly thought of as offensive to every single interest group that ever existed across the entire student union. They were calling for him to lose his job and everything for simply asking people to use common sense and try to be nice to people.
Oh, decorum.
Yeah, so he wasn't as what's the word?
Prescriptive?
Extreme and prescriptive enough for the likes of the people who want to be offended at all costs.
Oh, I see.
So there you go.
Yeah. So next up, we've got the first of our TV, which is Jessica Jones. Sean.
Jessica Jones is a new Netflix series about the hard-drinking, super strong, private eye Jessica Jones. It is set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, much like its predecessor Daredevil, which we reviewed in an earlier season of Visit a Bicycle. If anyone would like to go check that out, it's in our tag cloud. So Jessica Jones basically revolves around Jessica, who tried to be a superhero once, and things went wrong. Trying to just drink herself into oblivion and get over the guilt of things she's done in the past. The reason that she did these things was because of essentially mind control by the villain of the series, played by David Tennant, who in the comics is known as the Purple Man, but in this is simply referred to as Kilgrave. It goes from there.
So Shona, what do you think?
This was great. I didn't know anything about Jessica Jones because most of the Marvel Universe I learn about through film and television, having not read comics. And I thought it was fantastic. Getting to see a female protagonist who isn't obsessed with boys was great. You see her inner conflict and her stories really start to unravel in this pilot, and we see the onion that is Jessica Jones. The story of in the pilot, I think, does a really good job of kind of setting up her history as well as her current day approach to her superpowers, because she has a superpower, but she's not a superhero. I think that's one of the defining characteristics of Jessica Jones. You know, she's not Avengers famous. You know, she's not interested in it. She said she's not hiding, but she's not publicizing either. But we see her use her superpowers in this pilot. So, you know, she takes on a case at the beginning of this episode, and it just does a fantastic job. Like, it's shot really moodily. It kind of reminded me almost of Sin City in its cinematography. And I think the character seemed really interesting in terms of I want to see now more about her history that Sean's alluded to in his synopsis. I thought it was a really strong episode, and I really look forward to seeing the rest of it on Netflix. I wish I could just sit down without my baby and binge watch this show, but I think I'm going to have to parse it out, but it looks great.
Mike?
It was all going great until the credits opened and they put up Marvel. And then I knew it was going downhill from there. So they presented us with this woman, and they just shoved it in her face for the rest of the episode. She is good looking. You must obsess over her. Every single scene, we're going to put in an ass shot, just in case you didn't get it the first 16 times. And then it's that's kind of
Jessica Jones, man.
Yeah,
we're talking about Jessica Jones.
We're talking about Jessica Jones.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was horrific objectification of her.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And what really stunned me was the
yeah, I'm okay, go on.
What really stunned me was that her hair stayed okay, even though, like, as time passes in the show, I think it's 4 days passes and she hasn't changed her clothes. And she's obviously drinking herself to sleep every night, and she still doesn't smell bad enough not to be able to pull the attractive barman. What kind of universe?
Actually, you know
is
what? I have to admit that did kind of register with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't dwell on it too long, but I just went, oh.
Yeah. You.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't notice the earlier bits though, dude.
Huh?
I didn't notice any of that, and I would say be among the first people to notice that kind of thing.
Okay. You see, I've got your back, Shona. I'm always watching for these.
I mean, she did go to sleep at one point, and she did take some of her clothes off before that.
And she put the same ones back on.
Are you this critical of, like, the Hulk or Captain America?
I don't ever willingly watch.
I'm going to lay in wait for the next time Mike objectifies a woman. I'm just going to wait, and I'm going to be like, Jessica Jones.
Thank you, Sean. Good idea.
You all know about Mike's particular personality flaw, where if he doesn't like a thing, then and only then will he dissect the reality of what it is. But if it's a B movie that he likes, no amount of tentacles on an octopus are enough. And that is what you're having here. So, for some reason, Mike isn't hot on Kristen Ritter, but it's fine. She's not my speed either. But because she's not Mike's taste, he's gone, oh, an ass on the TV again. God damn it. If it was someone that you actually thought was attractive, Mike, it would have been completely invisible to you, other than you've been going, I like this show for some reason. I'm not sure what it is, but I like it.
For some reason, when she goes up ladders, I don't know. I just love it.
I don't know. I get this terrible feeling that you all think I'm really shallow. And
I really need Sean to start telling us what he thought of this episode before we keep talking about the merits of Jessica Jones based on our sexual preferences for her. Sean, please save the podcast.
I had other thoughts on it.
Or Steve, someone save the podcast from Mike. We are drowning.
Right. Well, I found this very hard to get into.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, you know, after a bit, I was kind of tuning out a bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was sort of going, oh, yeah. And there's another one of these I sort of, I'll go back and watch that again, because I completely missed what they all said there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it suddenly explodes into this something that I want to watch. And I was going, oh my goodness, that's good. And then it turns into something that's horror-tastic. And very dark and Sin City-ish and so on. I'm not sure that's enough to compel me to watch more. I'm not sure. I'm still fencing it yet. I need more reason because the first, I don't know, was it the first 40 minutes of it or something like that? It was just a difficult to watch before it got going. But maybe that was the whole setup for the whole series or something like that,
Would you not want to meet the villain? I think it's worth hanging around for the villain.
Not really. We've had hidden villains before, and I don't know enough about the villain and Jessica Jones's relationship for me to think, I don't know what's happened.
Yeah.
So now I don't care.
I guess what I found compelling is that she seems like such a badass and so unshakable, and yet she's clearly been shaken to the core by this guy. So I want to know,
completely vulnerable to him.
Who is he that he, unlike everybody else in her world, can shake her so badly? I want to know more about that relationship and the history.
Well, I bet he's got black hair and he wears a black coat. and he's pretty handsome. How about that?
Sounds
also it being
right.
Yeah.
Also, it being a Netflix show, it's not really the pilot episode 2 type scenario.
That's true.
So this all dropped at once.
Yeah.
And it's meant for binge watching. So, and it's something I was thinking about. I was very conscious of watching this. I watched 2 or 3 episodes because I felt that it makes sense to review something like this that way. Now, you've made a perfectly valid point, Steve. They spent a lot of time in slightly vague characterization with Jessica Jones and what she's been through and how come she's where she is, right? They spent a lot of time doing that. It might have served them better for someone who's going to watch an episode to see had they done that quicker. But I think it serves the series in doing it at the speed that they did. Because I thought a couple times, so I was enjoying it right away. I was immediately into it. I liked the world that they were introducing us to. I liked the darkness. I liked her darkness. I liked the fact that she was powerful and badass, but really vulnerable. And so damaged. And because there's an inherent contradiction there with someone that has power but can be so badly damaged. It's really interesting. They tried to do it and failed with Tony Stark after Avengers. It was Iron Man 3, was it?
Iron Man 3.
Thanks, Sean. I didn't think they did anything as close to as good a job as they've done with Jessica Jones here. So that's interesting. And I just think it's worth going on and watching a couple more episodes because it starts to pick up speed. And in episode 2 particularly, the stakes just go astronomical all of a sudden. And it's really, really good.
Okay, so it's worth... You think it's worth sticking with?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I'm
Okay.
going to watch... As soon as I'm physically able, I'm going to watch all of this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it did.
Can't wait to get to the end.
Okay.
Also because, haters be trying to spoil this everywhere.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Seriously. It's as bad as bloody Force Awakens.
Right.
I think it's funny when we review the Rat trailer from Netflix that brings up an interesting point about spoilers for Netflix
It
shows.
does, doesn't it? I loved that. Yeah. Sean.
I completely agree with Mark's opinion about Steve's opinion. This is a slow burn. And I think that's partially because it's a noir. It's a detective story, and it wants to be in that ilk and in that genre. So here's what I did, right? On Thursday at midnight, me and a mate, who probably likes superheroes even more than me, went and had a screening of 2 episodes. Before we did that, I gave my thing of how I thought the first episode would go if I was doing this and what I would presume that they would do. Unfortunately, that's exactly what happened in the first episode. And now I wish I hadn't done that. But basically, the first episode for something like, and I can't help but compare them, Daredevil, made me go, fucking yeah. I cannot wait to watch the next episode and the next episode. And I watched it in 4 episode chunks and got it finished in 3 days. With this, I do think that the slow burn is, I won't be able to know the full effect of it until the end, but so far in the 6 episodes I've seen, it's paying off. Like, I really do appreciate this build of tension, because really, like, when you come face to face, or even just you see any real glimpse of David Tennant's Zebediah Kilgrave, it's either scary or intense or all those things. Like, it's a lot. The one thing I got wrong about the episode was I went, well, in Daredevil, we didn't see the Kingpin till episode 4. They can't do that again. Surely they can't, like, wait a while. So I think we're just going to see him straight off. They didn't do that, which I kind of wish that they had, because I want more. I want more David Tennant. And what's really interesting, I read an article about this. There are characters who do terrible things, but because the actors are either well liked from other TV shows or films, or just because they're really attractive, a combination of those things, or just because they're great actors, the villains, or at least flawed people, become well liked. It would be very dangerous if that happened with this show. And thankfully, and I think it's a tribute to the show and to David Tennant, that isn't happening. Like, I'm not thinking about the Doctor when David Tennant licks Kristen Ritter's face and she wakes up basically about to cry. Which, by the way, was an improv scene. Like, there's a moment where Jessica Jones has like not a flashback, but a nightmare, I guess. And Kilgrave like licks her face, and then she like starts awake. Kristen Ritter nearly kicked David Tennant's ass when he did that. Like, literally, he was just like, "Oh, I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry," in English. I was just in the moment. I thought that's what I should do. And she's like, "What the? Don't ever do that again. Don't fucking do." And I just love that was like a complete turnabout for who David Tennant was pretending to be, and the exact same for Kristen Ritter. The colors palette and the shots in this show are really pretty. The usage of her powers is probably more interesting than it has any right to be when it's like, she's super strong. So I think that that's really interesting. The conflicts, the fights themselves, and the various other things that happen, that's pretty cool, because they don't have the budget for Avengers type shit, right? So I like that the danger is still real and they keep things interesting. It is absolutely electric when Luke Cage and Jessica Jones are on screen together, which in the first episode just kind of made me go, "Oh, this is awesome." Oh, they're not. Okay, I guess I'll just watch her go tail a guy for a while now. That's fine. But I appreciate that they're rolling more and more characters and actors like that into the show in kind of unexpected ways. And I don't know, Shona, maybe we should have a conversation about this at some point later on. But it really does investigate a lot of issues. Like, it's completely about power and abuse. Yeah. That's the show is about. It's about power and abuse, and in so many different ways, and people, particularly women, making their choices about how they're going to be and or feel safe, and how they're going to save themselves or other people. Which is interesting, because that isn't really something like that I'd seen before. And I kind of feel as well like there's going to be a huge funneling by Netflix, not just because it's like their new show, but a huge funneling by Netflix of people from their Orange is the New Black audience and their Daredevil audience into this show, which I was kind of thinking about and going, that's really, like, they know their audience is inbuilt in certain ways for these things, which might be why, as well as the fact that it's not, on network television in general, which might be why they can do shows like this about these kinds of topics more freely. Than networks that like, oh, a show about a woman, is Shonda Rhimes doing it? No, well, we can't take the risk then. So I think that's kind of interesting that they have that ability.
I think that's a really good point. I mean, your comparisons with Daredevil is something that I was making as well, because I think, it's another show that Netflix has taken from Marvel, and because it's on Netflix, it can get a bit darker than we see in the Avengers, or things that are kind of meant for wider, age groups and population. Yeah, of course. I hadn't thought about the Orange is the New Black audience, but I think that's a really good analogy in terms of Jessica Jones being a funneling of both of those two demographics, or they could be the same demographic, but that you have it kind of pulls from both, really, doesn't it? And your point about the theme of the show being about power and abuse and recovery or handling things is something I haven't really seen done well like this in a TV show in a long time. Most of the time it is a bit more simplified or binary. So seeing those themes be prominent in such a huge Netflix show, especially with Marvel's name on it, is really encouraging.
So there's something else as well that I found myself pondering after watching this. So I love superhero movies. They're great. Most of my issues with superhero movies comes from having to water down the comics to make sure that the kids can go.
Yeah.
The Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter, and those network TV shows I have similar issues with. No, I like them. Not as much as the movies, because the movies are blockbusters and giant scale. This is smaller scale, but it's also watered down so the kids can watch. But then you go on Netflix and shit be crazy. There's blood. There's like strong sexual references and all of this good stuff, which means that they can tell the story without pulling any punches. And we've seen that in season 1 of Daredevil, which was really, really great. And I think we're seeing it unfold, possibly even better in Jessica Jones now. And I'm starting to think that Netflix maybe is where superheroes should go.
Yeah. Yep. I would add to that, Mark, that on top of the fact that it doesn't have to cater to kids so much and it can really go big with those shows on Netflix, you know, in the same way it can go really dark. I mean, I remember I was surprised when I was watching Daredevil how dark it got sometimes, or how graphic or how violent. And I think it was one of the best shows I've seen this year. And likewise, Jessica Jones is hinting at it in the pilot, but I'm sure that in the rest of the series, Netflix will go there, you know. And so you have the big non-kids safe type content, which includes, I think, it not being afraid to get really dark or scary or violent, or, you know, all that other stuff that can make a comic book on screen really, really, what's the word? Good is not a good enough word. Compelling. Let's go with compelling.
Profound, layered.
What's better than good? Oh, I just said it. Better. What's like the best of good? Oh, I said it again.
Do you guys think Kristen Ritter is a good actress in this? Because I know some of you guys watched Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23.
I thought she was good in that too, actually. I just didn't like Don't Trust the Bitch. She was brilliant in Breaking Bad. She was really, really strong in that.
Yeah.
She was good in Don't Trust the Bitch, but I didn't think comedy was her forte. I didn't think she was strong enough. I think she's really good in this, my opinion.
I think my favorite was her character in Breaking Bad. This isn't that far removed from that character. Yeah, I've no issues. Yeah, I think she's doing a great job.
I think she's doing a good job, but not an amazing job.
No. Yeah.
I disagree. I think the vulnerability and the whole PTSD-ness of it all, I think she's doing it really well.
Yeah, I agree with Mark. I was going to say this seems perfectly cast. I mean, I wasn't watching the pilot thinking, great show, who else would I have play her? I think she did a great job of that, that duality that Mark's talking about, the PTSD as well as being this strong kick-ass woman with superpowers. And even like the voiceover from the very beginning, from the opening shot, you know, that kind of typical detective show of, you know, the dark pan across the cityscape and then this voice over, you know, it was dark, you know, whatever she was saying. I think she's doing it really well. I'll be curious, I think, as I see more I'll think about what you guys are saying. Mm-hmm. How do I feel about it? But so far, I think she's really impressive. She really does that dark, vulnerable character well.
Mike, would you have any one in mind that you might have?
I don't want to hear Mike's opinion on this show anymore.
Rona Meter, maybe?
I'm just amazed that you guys have so much to say about this.
You're very quiet over there, Mike.
It was just a nothing show.
Oh my goodness gracious me. It absolutely wasn't. And that was the point I was trying to get at.
I was
every superhero film we've watched, right, in the last 10 years has been throwaway in one shape or another. Mm-hmm. It's very rarely that they've actually tried to tell a real story, right?
So hang on a sec. You're trying to tell me that a superhero show with a crap superhero is going to be better than a real superhero show? No. Especially for somebody who doesn't like superhero shows in the first place.
There are no crap superheroes. There are just superheroes who are on the Avengers or not.
I was going to say, actually, Mike, to that point, I was reading a review today of Jessica Jones that was saying specifically for people who don't like superhero shows or maybe wouldn't be taken with the Marvel Universe as it's been depicted on screen so far. For that reason, they might find that they like Jessica Jones because it really diverts, I think, from the recipe we've seen so far. It's a very different type of superhero show.
Yeah. If they just removed the superheroes entirely, it might have been interesting.
But this show really isn't about her power at all. I think that's the
Until
point.
it is.
Power, though.
It's about power and not superpowers. That's it. I think the fact that she has, a superpower is you could argue beside the point.
But it is
I would
the point.
actually...
Go ahead.
I would
Sean.
like to throw out that it's really interesting. Like, here's the thing, right? She has super strength, and the audience has a proxy in Patsy Walker, in Trish from Trish Talk, at various points in the season. But also, we can just see it ourselves. We'd love to be super strong. We would love that. We would love to be that strong. Except the entire time we see her, she is in some way powerless because of what has been done to her. And what may yet happen to her again. And if she didn't have super strength, I don't think it would be as interesting. The whole point is that she has this thing and in part has this burden and in part maybe even buried underneath all of the booze and the cussing and the pushing people away from her, a desire to help people, to do the right thing. But she was made to do the wrong thing for a long time. And now she can't even get whatever it is that she needs to get to try. Or maybe she can. It will be very difficult, but we have our 13 episodes where we can watch and see if she succeeds and gets her power back, whether using her powers or her intelligence, her friends, or any other thing she can do. Or if she fails.
So, I mean, Sean, think about it from the perspective of somebody who doesn't like superheroes.
What about Arrow?
Has no idea.
Hang on.
Who has no idea who Jessica Jones is, and you hit them with a slow burner pilot. How is that going to make anybody go to episode 2?
I think that the pacing of it is a little bit flawed. I agree. The first and second episode, at least to my tastes, and I think Steve was saying something similar to that, and Mark was recognizing that as well. But I think it's because how can I get you to watch the next episode? Well, in about 10 seconds, it's going to start playing anyway.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think it's a case of most people don't get made to watch this because they have to review it for a show, right? So anyone who wants to watch it enough to watch the first episode, I think will want to watch it enough to watch the second. And I do think second leads to third, and third leads to fourth, and fourth leads to the rest of the series.
Well, certainly with the hang that we're left with at the end of episode 1, it would certainly compel you to leave it on for at least the next 10 minutes. I thought you were a fan of Arrow.
I was.
You were. Is that not a superhero?
I was always. I'm on record as admitting my shame for watching Arrow. That was an aberration.
Okay.
I had no excuse. I was young. I needed the entertainment.
God damn. I just think it's a well-plotted show. I think that it's written well most of the time, though there's been some dialogue moments that are a little overwritten and soap operatic. But I would rather blame the specific writer for that episode and for the entire show. I don't think it's perfect by any means, but I think it's very engaging and it's original. Like, this is something, as Shona said, I haven't really seen before. And I'm so excited because they're revving up so much. I really love any amount of Kilgrave we get in this show, and they're increasing that more and more because they know that people are excited about that performance, so they can tease it out.
Okay. Shona?
Yes, Steve.
Thriller, filler.
This is thriller for me.
Sorry?
Thriller for me.
Thriller for you. Mike?
I was bored out of my bicky. It's better all around.
Okay. I was on the fence, but, I think I'm going to watch another one based on what I've heard tonight, so thriller for me. Mark?
Oh, definitely thriller. Cannot wait to get to the rest of this. I may leave the podcast early to watch an episode or 2.
Sean?
Yeah, great plot, great show. Thriller from me.
Brilliant. Okay, next up we have The Hunger Games. What?
Mike thinks that we're picking on him. He's just registered a complaint in my ear.
Oh, right, did he?
I told him to fuck off. Let's continue.
Look, so, Mike, it's going to happen. It happens to all of us at some stage in this podcast. It's not your fault. Your opinion is wrong.
I think actually it was fuck off. She hinted.
Okay, Hunger Games Killer Bird was mocking you. Who saw this? Mike.
I did.
And Sean. Okay, Mike, tell us about it.
Do you remember the Hunger Games?
Yes.
Do you remember there was a second one?
Yeah.
And then there was a third one.
Right.
Except the third one was so big they couldn't fit it into one. So they had to have like 3-1 and 3-2.
Oh.
Yeah. So this is...
There's 31 films.
It feels like it. So this is the fourth in the franchise and the end. We finally get to the end of the story.
Oh, so Katniss Jennings. Is that her name?
No, Katniss
Everdeen.
Everdeen.
Wait, why are you laughing at me?
We have through the whole arc of the story, Katniss and Peeta going up against the terrible President Stone, I think it was, or Snow, President Snow, and finally we get a resolution. Yeah, for good or ill, and that's what everybody's been waiting for how many years is it now?
Before we get to the review, I just have to say, while it's in my mind, that I saw a video of it's like a mashup of Katniss in Mockingjay, and it's like Katniss wants the sandwich, and it's all about people saying, or like her going PETA, and then like this PETA floating across the screen, PETA, and then she's running towards the PETA. Anyways, it was really funny. How was the film?
Is it on YouTube?
Sounds much funnier than the movie, actually.
So tell us.
It's a pity that Cynical Mike is visiting with us tonight. Because this is going to be an even more cutting review than usual, I suspect.
I think so.
At least Cynical Mike made the effort to go and see the damn movie.
So, Mike, here's my first question, right?
Was she objectified? That's what I want.
If my first question, which implies that I get to do that, go first. If you, right, if a person like myself who enjoyed number 31 were to watch number 32,
Yeah.
would it be better or worse?
Better.
Good question from Mark.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Better.
Yeah.
That was my expectations, to be honest.
Yeah.
31 was so much setup for 32.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we need to try and hashtag that or popularize it somehow, because that is the best name for those films.
Correct answer. That was Mark Leonard, University of Donegal. Sean Leonard, would you like to follow up? Bonus point?
Yeah,
University
I mean,
of Nevada.
bonus point. Rule point. I would agree with Mike that this is better than the last one. I was disappointed. I thought I had a good ending, except it's not really an ending because it's part one. Hey, movies. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. You're fucking around. Make a movie. If it has to be really long, then the DVD will go part 1 and part 2, like Lawrence of Arabia. That's a long ass fucking movie. But it's a movie. It's not Lawrence of Arabia A and B. Okay? So make your fucking movie. Stop fucking around. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, Star Wars boy. Sorry, I mean, sorry.
Those are each one of those. You can just watch them. You can just watch them.
I think we're ripe for fighting tonight on the podcast.
Anyway,
I was gonna mention Lord
I
of the
think
Rings,
that
but
this
just
movie's better, but it also just does a much clearer thing. It goes, all right, we're in the midst of war. Here's what we need to do. Here's what your job is. And then Katniss goes, nah, I'm going to do what I think is right instead. A bunch of things are complicated and difficult. There are loads of fights. It's fun. Mike, would you at least agree with that?
Yeah. You've got to the nub of it. It's not to say that there aren't significant fucking problems with this movie.
There are many problems.
First of all, like, movie 31 was, all about the setup. So we think, having gone through that you come into movie 32, that, setup's done. Let's have something happen now. And for the first hour or so of the show, it's more moping around and emotions and Like,
motions. Those are the worst.
Motions up and down, in and out.
You know,
Yep.
you know,
Wait, did you say emotions?
Oh, sorry.
Did you say emotions or motions?
I thought you said
Emotions.
motions.
Yeah, emotions.
Oh, okay.
Steve.
Sorry.
so like,
Hearing what I want to hear. Yeah.
there's an awful lot of philosophizing about, you know, the morality of war, what's acceptable to do, what's not acceptable to do, how does it change people? Can a good person become a bad person when his motivations are changed by what he's seen happen to his friends? And that's fine, but that should have been in the first movie. Like, now is the time for kicking ass.
The change of mind came too late.
Yeah, it's like, I really, really wanted this to finally take the gloves off, make this the action movie that it should be. Sean?
I mean, yeah, except I did like the action that was in it. Like, you know, I think that there's some really interesting things they do that are like, oh, okay, Hunger Games is doing what Hunger Games should do when it comes to action.
Bows and arrows.
Well, no, it's like the specific stuff that we liked from, let's say, Hunger Games 1 and 2. You know, like they don't do the cop out of 2 and go, now we're going to have the quarter quell, which means that there's another Hunger Games. It's like the first one. Have you seen the first one? It's like that. Instead of that, they go, no, this is a new fucking arena. We're going to kill so many people because it's the future and we have technology. I don't know. So, like, there's, for example, a very tense section in the midst of a war-torn city and a tense section underneath that city that I thought was pretty good. Like, I really did enjoy the action in those moments. Like, I don't know, Mike, you've probably watched a lot more people savaging themselves and each other than I have. What did you think?
I have to say that underground section, apart from being totally ripped off from the Mines of Moria in Lord of the Rings, there comes a point where I sat back in the cinema and I thought, holy shit, they're going to make a good movie out of this. I was like, oh my God.
Yep.
I put to one side all the pain I'd endured watching this series of movies and I thought, finally I'll get some payback. And then they dropped the ball. I was like, gee, what?
Did you say all this out loud? See, that's one of the reasons I really hate going to cinema. Fuckers like you. Yes! Oh, yeah, go! God damn it!
Well, sometimes people have emotions, Stephen.
Emotion.
But, I mean, it's funny because there's some fantastic action scenes, but then there's, like, it's supposed to be a war zone. But, you know, you have, there's a group of people who are going into the war zone, obviously including Jennifer Lawrence.
The main character.
Yeah, because where else would she be? And, you know, there's supposed to be soldiers in a war zone, and they're walking around like a bunch of friends on the way into the nightclub. You know, nobody's taking cover, nobody's watching out for snipers. So, like, you honestly expect to get out of here.
I would say, first of all, they are a propaganda crew, and only about 3 or 4 of them are actual soldiers. In fairness, Katniss and some of the others haven't been trained. They've just been in a war. Like, they're rebels, you know? So I wouldn't have as much of a problem with that. Like, what I would focus on that makes this more like a Hunger Games like type of action thing is at the end of the last movie, Peeta, we saw the results of him being brainwashed. One of the core things in this movie is dealing with that, both like the character implications, but also he's actually got some shit buried inside his head where he might try and kill people at any moment. And then trying to use him as a propaganda tool becomes more complex and complicated. And it's already pretty complicated with regards to Katniss, et cetera, et cetera. So I liked that. And Mike, I agree with you. I think that literally throughout, I was like, yeah, good. Okay, action. Cool. Great. Like, let's just keep it moving. Let's keep the pace going. They're having their every now and then little bits of romance. And of course, there's a love triangle to be solved between Katniss and Peeta, cat piss, and Katniss and Gale, whose name I forgot. I did not know that his name was. He's Thor Jr. It's Chris Hemsworth's brother, Liam, I think.
I always thought his name was Peter. He couldn't pronounce his R's.
So he that love triangle is kind of resolved. I won't say how it is, but I did appreciate that they did some attempts for that in the midst of like action and tension, etc. But the dropping of the ball takes quite a long time. Like actually watching it, just kind of go, come on. Yeah, you fucked up, and now I just have to watch this movie for another 15 minutes. 25 minutes, you say? Really? Okay, good. I don't know how to like really talk about it without like doing spoilers, but it went on for too long, and there's there's a political move made, right? Okay, well, there's a couple. There's one political move made, the effects of which are quite visceral and have great impact for the characters. The meditation upon that kind of removed the air in the room. There wasn't really any more like progressing action. It was kind of like, oh, so the rest of this is all just going to be, instead of climax, is going to be aftermath. Okay, sure. We already kind of know what's going to happen. Like we fucking know. Yeah. So that was kind of dumb. And then there's a political move made where I'm just like, that's fucking dumb as shit. That's not going to work. Stop. Now you're forcing a political message down our throats, whereas before you had a story that had political messages. Okay, sure. Go. This isn't going to work out very well for these characters. And then we watch the movie for 30 minutes. They have some other dumb shit to do with some other relationships. And I'm just like, thank you for that message. I'm glad that the movie's over now.
The one thing that always struck me about The Hunger Games, the books, is that I think they obviously, because they had the power of word, were able to go a lot more into Katniss's mind and her background, her history, what she thinks, what she feels. And I think that the books did a really good job of making The Hunger Games really about a very young woman who is forced into a position she doesn't want to be in, and then kind of has to ride this roller coaster, become the pin-up girl for a rebel cause that she doesn't want to be in, but she has no other choice. And excuse me for making the comparison, but it reminds me of Macbeth. You know, where Macbeth is shoved into a position he does not want to be in, and then all of a sudden shit has to get real. And, you know, I'd say he would give anything to not have to be the center of that story. And I think, we see that in Katniss Everdeen, where the action sequences are great, but they really serve more to add tension to her being forced into these positions she doesn't want to be in, because she doesn't want to be part of this world at all, much less at the center of it. I suppose because it was moved onto the screen, you know, the Hunger Games becomes an action film, and that's where a lot of the focus has gone on, but I think it comes at a cost of that emotional, driving force that we get in the books, where we kind of sense her desperation, which is why there was, in my mind, reading the books, there was never really a love triangle, so to speak, as we know it, you know, traditionally between Peeta and Gale, because Katniss isn't looking for love. You know, she's trying to survive in this very, very harsh, horrific world. So I've always kind of been slightly disappointed with the films, because to me, they couldn't live up to that tension that gets portrayed in the books. Knowing that there's obviously a climax in this last film, is there any attempt at kind of seeing that side of Katniss, or is it really just maybe a poorly executed, in Mike's opinion, action film?
It's more than just poorly executed action film. I think Jennifer Lawrence is part of the problem in this. She tries.
You're part of the problem, Mike.
Thank you, Mark.
She tries to address the "I don't want to be the hero" thing. And
you should wear a dress.
And for me, it falls flat. She comes across as wooden.
I know. All those Oscars and shit, you know.
All those Oscars and shit, you know. Like, for somebody who has been so much more successful than Sean at such a young age.
I thought we were done with that.
I thought I'd just sneak that in there.
The last fucking Hunger Games. We were together on this for so long, but you know what, Mike? Not anymore.
It's on. But, no, I don't. She looked to me like she wasn't interested in being in this movie. She was just going through the motions as far as I could see.
Just getting paid.
Well, she's getting paid an awful lot of money.
Seriously though, Mike.
Seriously.
Yeah,
seriously.
Just turn up day one. Jesus.
I don't know. You know, I have to say that one of the moments that stands out for me of the whole Hunger Games franchise, because I haven't seen the last one yet, is from the first Hunger Games film, where of course Katniss gets thrown into the arena because her sister's name was pulled during the cull, and then we just see Katniss scream, like, "I volunteer, take me!" And that brings tears to my eyes every time I see it. Just like the raw emotion that she's showing in that scene of just being willing to forfeit her own life, which is essentially what the cull is, to spare her sister. So I'd be surprised to see a wooden performance from her, because I have some memories of the previous films where she's quite emotive.
Yeah, I will admit, in the earlier, installments, she wasn't bad. Like, she did carry across the message that she was
Oscar winner, not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
But in this, there's one particular scene where her life is in extreme danger, and she is asked, she has to react to the situation, and it's about as exciting as somebody getting pulled over by the cops for a breathalyzer test. It's
so incredibly tense.
It just didn't work. And I think that's on her. I think she's more interested in doing something else right now. I think she's like, no more than Daniel Craig, she's bored out of her bicky of Katniss.
All right.
Let's just step back into Mike's superficial and hurtful review for a second. So, first of all, Oscar winner stuff, right? Look, sometimes Oscar winners do bad performances. This happens. So it's not like it's outside the realm of possibility. Robert De Niro every now and then just goes, do you know what? I'm a bit tired. Might just make a shit film. Might go have a bit of a shit performance on something. Like, these kinds of things do happen. In this, I think the emotions she was trying to get across were like not as active. Like, literally, here's the case, right? She is accepting the mantle at the start of this film. Whatever you want me to do, I will do it. And then her other goal of, I have to kill Snow. I have to kill this fucking guy. He is the problem. He is the guy that, like, once he's gone, everything will be okay. Which is an interesting thread throughout, because of how that may or may not be the case. It's like the classic othering that happens in a war. Right before you go out to fight, you make sure that you think that they are different from you, which is a theme throughout this film as well. But I think it's partially she is just fucking done. Like, she just wants it to be over, which is a tough thing to communicate interestingly. And also, there's,
you mean the character wants the war to be over, or like Jennifer Lawrence wants this franchise to be over?
Both.
Oh.
I think Katniss's character is also going, like, I want all this shit to be done. Like, I want this to be over. The war needs to end, and like, victory is potentially in sight, but we just need to get it done. And also, it's gotta be such a drain on Jennifer Lawrence to be working with this material, air quotes, that she's been given. And I don't know, I just think, Shona, going back to what you were saying, talking about the books and not really thinking that these were a great translation, yada, yada, yada. Prepare to be further disappointed in the exact ways you've described, based on what everybody I was with who had read the books was like, this is like Katniss's character arc. This is what happens in the movie. That's dumb as fuck.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
So sods.
Well,
sods
I think I've been prepared since the first movie. Well, more since the second movie. I thought the first movie was fairly decent, but you kind of have to watch the movies separately from the books. I mean, sometimes it's not always fair to watch something that's an adaptation for the screen, and compare it in the same vein to, the original, whatever platform it was. So I've kind of always considered the books and the movies to be separate entities. The movies are much more, a little less dynamic and complex and more about the action, a bit more traditional, whereas the book, I think, goes far deeper than that. So for my expectations of the film, it sounds like this one, you were saying, improves on the previous film, which is good. It's enjoyable as what it is, but maybe not comparable to the book.
Yeah. I just think that the message of the book, as it was explained to me, because I haven't read it, is definitely lost given the ending that they have.
Okay. Interesting.
So don't cry.
I cry at everything, Mike.
Okay.
Also, I have to point out one thing, two things about audience reaction in this movie. There's a scene that's supposed to be very sad, right? This is part of the extended aftermath. There's a scene that's supposed to be very sad where Jennifer Lawrence is doing some emoting, and people laughed.
Oh no.
There was just something in the scene, in the mise en scène, that people were like, ha! And it was clearly just a fucking dumb choice. How do they not know it was going to play that way?
After the
Probably
podcast,
because
I
half
need
the
you
people
to
there
tell me
were
what
just
scene
like-
that is.
It was just like, what a dumb thing. And also, the other thing with the audience, the movie ended and one person started doing this. We did not join it.
Yeah. Just one more thing I'd like to say. In the last movie,
God, for a man who had nothing to say about this.
in the last movie, Jennifer was mean to cats, and
Oh, unforgivable. Yeah.
she does it again this time. And I tell you, they're talking about me getting emotional. When she did that, I actually wanted to leap out of the seat and shoot her. I was just,
Doesn't she save her sister's cat before she goes underground?
no, she
into
tells her
District
to
13?
fuck off.
No, but she saves the cat.
No, in the previous movie, Mike, when all the doors are closing and she makes the dumb choice to try and go save the animal.
It's the sister that goes back to save the animal, not her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
But-
she
And then
says,
tries to
don't
save
go
his
and
sister.
save the
But
animal.
doesn't she
Yeah.
bring the cat into District 13 with her? Like, she's the one that brings him from District 12 to District 13.
That's only because she had to go and get her sister.
I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah. But anyway, I was almost at the point of roaring at the screen. Fuck you, Jennifer. Fuck you.
Another reason
there.
I never said Mike. So she did the save the cat thing, did she?
We can't go into it, actually. We
Yeah,
can't.
we
It's
can't.
plot
Okay,
relevant.
plot. Yeah, okay. Okay, let's mark this. Mike, because I want to end on a high note.
Okay.
Mike, you go first.
Yeah. It's not a good movie. But it's better than the last movie. And I think I shot in the last movie. So I'll be generous and give this one a 5.
Oh, okay. Sean.
I just think it's average, has a disappointing ending, has some good action sequences. It's a 5.
5. Okay. Wow. Wasn't expecting that.
That is
An
surprising.
agreement. Wow.
Yeah.
But still, fuck you, Mike.
I was just about to say, Sean, I really admire, your analysis and your constant intelligence and, your general knowledge of movie industry. It's really
But
inspiring to work with you.
in a second, you'd replace me with Jennifer Lawrence.
Okay. Next up, we have third of our movies. Second, which is Stink. Shona.
So, Stink is a documentary from John Whelan. Hold on. It is John Whelan. Sorry, I'm going to have to start that again. So, Stink is a documentary from John Whelan. It's based in America, and we start with him ordering his 8-year-old daughter a pair of pajamas from this American chain store called Justice, and the pajamas smell. They have a really strong chemical smell, and he wants to get to the bottom of what the smell is. The documentary then goes on to explore regulations around chemicals and the disclosure of chemicals in products that we use, particularly with regard to the problematic, vague listing of fragrance as a single ingredient in products, where, of course, as he points out, fragrance is actually a combination of many, many chemicals, some of which may be very dangerous to our health or even life-threatening. So the documentary takes us through his investigation of chemicals that are found in various everyday products, the dangers that they pose to our health, and what the American regulatory system is going to do about that, or not do about that. So what did you think, Mike?
I was a little disappointed in this. I thought the subject matter was interesting, but I thought they focused too much on the personal story. There's a tragic backstory about his wife dying and blah, 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 which is, that's very important for the filmmaker. But as a viewer, you're kind of wondering, why are we going back to this over and over? It's deflecting from the actual point of the documentary.
Yeah.
And he doesn't make a direct link between what happened to his wife and, the subject matter.
Yeah.
Can I make a point on that? Just on his website, there's a quote. It says, I used to be ignorant about the cancer loophole. I thought that if a product was on the shelf in a store, that meant it was safe. And if a product contained dangerous toxic ingredients that could cause cancer, it would be banned.
Yeah.
So his wife died from breast cancer. So I think that's kind of the...
Well, see, I agree with Mike. It's a very tenuous link. I mean, they make the point in the documentary over and over again that you assume if a product is for sale, that it's safe for us. Although some of those products or some of those chemicals and ingredients are known carcinogenics, and that his wife died of breast cancer. But I think what Mike is saying is that we don't know why she died of breast cancer. We don't know what gave her breast cancer.
Okay,
they don't go into any of that.
Yeah.
And that there is very much kind of a discord between these weird slow-mo video clips of his wife before she died, waving at the camera or walking across the beach, and his memory of her and her place in the family to their daughters, and then an expose on regulations of chemical listings on products. I completely agree with you. It was very... I would say it's poorly done, but I think it actually goes further than that. Like you, Mike, I don't actually think it had a place. Those were two different things. Yeah. And I feel like he went to go make a movie and he was just like, he's obviously still missing his wife. There's a huge hole in his family's life where she used to be. And I think he wanted this film to maybe be an homage to her, or he wanted to credit, her life and her death. I don't know that this was the documentary to do it in.
Yeah. I understand what you mean, and maybe it was a bit long in that area, but I think it was important to show what was driving him to do this.
Yeah.
And also the stats that he brought up were, what was in the 60s, it was 1 in 20 women were getting breast cancer, whereas now 1 in 8. And they insinuated that it has to be environmental factors that is causing this. And environmental factors could be hand soap, it could be clothes, it could be, anything. It could be sitting on your couch, could be, because they talk about a lot of chemicals that are in flame retardant, and he talks about tobacco industry, whereas they were told that most house fires and most deaths were caused by cigarettes. People falling asleep or something like that, and cigarettes started lighting up the couch. And so instead of having the self-extinguishing cigarette, which of course would lead to less sales of cigarettes.
But it changed the taste of the cigarette.
It changed the taste. So instead they made everything fireproof by using these chemicals, but they didn't know which chemicals they were. But they just, the ones that they did declare sort of weren't cancer causing.
Yeah.
But, overall, I thought this was fascinating. Just there's a lot of stuff there that I didn't know about, and I thought it was great that they highlighted the loopholes that are used.
I think it was very informative. You're right. I mean, I had no idea that America had such a lack of regulation around something that's so vital to our health and to our environment. It kind of bordered for me on scaremongering, which is a type of documentary I'm not really a fan of, because no matter what,
it's a one-sided argument then.
Well, there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, the fact is, in modern day life, there is no way for us to avoid chemicals. You wash your hair, you brush your teeth, you wash your face, you eat food, you sit on couches. I mean, there's absolutely no way to avoid the chemicals that they're talking about. So I think where he is trying to propel us into action to maybe create regulations in America to make these products safer for our consumption, it kind of comes across as nobody's safe, we're all going to die, which is, it really sits uneasy with me, because there's nothing you can do about it, and it kind of just sits you in this place of tension. I kept finding myself as I was watching it wondering if this subject matter was just presented in a different format, would I like it better? So I kept thinking, if this was a Michael Moore documentary, what would I think about it? Or if this was a 10-minute segment on John Oliver's Last Week Tonight, what would I think about it? And I think I would like them more, which leads me to think that it was maybe just the style of the documentary, the way that it was directed and put together, that I wasn't a big fan of. But the subject matter was really interesting.
Yeah. I thought it was very interesting that, when that he did show and let lobbyists give their points and industry leaders, and he showed footage from that. Now, granted, they weren't very convincing. at all. But like when asked how many of these chemicals have you banned in the last year, it's like 5. And how many have Europe banned or the EU banned? It's like 1,200. So they're saying that there's more chemicals banned. They were horrified to find out in China for consumer products than there are in the US, and they feel that the US is a dumping ground for these chemicals. Mike, there's also the perfume or fragrance loophole too.
Oh yeah, that came under trade secrets.
Yeah, or proprietary blends.
Yeah, so long as it's kind of a smell, you can put whatever the fuck you like in it. I mean, he said basically you can put arsenic in it if it smells nice.
Yeah.
Which is kind of scary.
Yeah.
And I think we did have a little look around my household, and there was quite a lot of products that had parfum.
Yeah. But well, actually, at the same time, I'd say about half of them listed everything too, didn't they? Yeah. There was a couple of products that kind of said, this is literally everything. Yeah.
Well, that was, I think, one of the points that they make was differentiating between petroleum-based fragrance and then plant-based fragrance. And so somebody who works from Trilogy, who is a skincare brand, I think they're an Australian skincare brand, are plant-based, and they list all their products. I was glad to know because they are my face wash. Thank God. But the petroleum-based products are the ones that are a lot more dangerous and the ones that you don't tend to get listings for.
Yeah.
You're paying more for the plant-based ones. You get transparency there, and also it's more, it's better for your health, or at least it's not detrimental to your health. But really interesting to see, how long and varied and complex and dangerous those petroleum-based chemicals could be, and how
and how you can pass them on to next generations as well. They're born with
but see, that's where I think it kind of got into scaremongering, because as a woman who just gave birth, yes, I am exposed to a lot of chemicals, and they're going to go into my body, showing me little, animated cartoons of a pregnant woman ingesting chemicals and going into the fetus, and the baby's born, and then they're like,
"Oh, is that how it works?"
It's you could be mutating your genes, and your unborn child is already infected. It's just like
Wi-Fi is coming to kill your baby.
There was a lot of headlines that they showed from newspapers, and they all contained could and may and possibly. Yeah. It's a lot of that, like those scaremongering stories that you see.
I think
a lot of TV. There's no paper that comes out say yes for certain, for definite.
Right. Well, I think the documentary does do a good job of highlighting. I think what's a very commonsensically, I think you could see. Obviously, all these chemicals are going to be bad for our health. Pointing out the rise in cancer rates. And then the regulations or the lack thereof that can contribute to these health problems. I think the documentary does a very strong job of highlighting that correlation. But I think the way that it was portrayed is what's scaremongering, not the fact. I don't think the facts are in dispute. I think it's the way that they were showed, like, for example, these, animations of pregnant women ingesting chemicals, your baby's already born with all this stuff. And it's just like, but this is what modern day life is. All of these people, we were all born to parent or to a mother who had ingested chemicals. Yeah. We ourselves are kind of around them every day. So it's kind of like talking about, I don't know if it was a joke. Well, obviously it was a joke about Wi-Fi, or if anyone ever took that kind of extreme viewpoint.
It's the presentation, really.
To me, it was just the style of the documentary that didn't sit well with me. I think kind of bringing in this personal life that obviously was a very harrowing event for them. I don't know that they did a strong enough job of using that personal experience as a platform to investigate this, issue in America. I don't think that correlation was made strongly enough, especially at the end of the documentary. It seemed like we were watching the end of two different films, saying goodbye to the wife and talking about regulation of chemicals. Yeah. And then the style throughout, the way that they showed the facts, I just wasn't a fan of the style. I think the content, like I said, was interesting, but I think that the way that the information was shown didn't sit well with me. Like I said, I would have liked to see a segment on Last Week Tonight, because I think John Oliver would do a great job with this type of content.
I did have a problem with the language. Like, there was over and over again, chemicals are bad.
It's repetitive in that way, all right.
But water is a chemical.
Yeah.
We are chemicals. Yeah. There's nothing you can look at that isn't a chemical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
stuff
all
of the universe,
chemicals are
isn't
bad.
it?
Yeah. But it's I suppose it's lowest common denominator stuff. Chemicals are bad. Okay.
Yeah, it's not defining which chemicals are. There wasn't even that was the one thing he did name a few that we should be, worried about, like the flame retardant and so
and
on.
the phthalates, right?
Yeah, exactly. But like you say, it was like. It came across as those like all chemicals, rather than sort of maybe having a list or maybe having a suggestion.
If they could have narrowed in.
How about these
2 or 3 nasty ones that show up everywhere.
But he also did, in fairness, he did make the point that we don't know how this chemical and this chemical will react together. I mean that's quite a specialized subject.
Yeah.
Let's say. I did like the way he chased up though on the pajamas.
Yeah,
and he followed it through with justice, and he made the calls. And sorry, this is proprietary, and we can't answer that call. And he said, okay. And then he became a shareholder, so he could go to the shareholders meeting. He bought 1 share in the company. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
And then when he eventually got on the phone to the guy who's in charge of all the products, the guy tried to say to him, listen, I just assure you that all the chemicals, they're all safe, they're not cancer. And he said, but what's in it? And he said, I'm not a chemist, I don't know. But so how can you say they're safe if you don't know what's in it? No, but they've been tested, but you don't know what's in it. Now, I thought that was a fair point. And I do think there should be some regulation around that.
Well, I think...
I think there should be regulation on everything that's been sold to us in that light,
Definitely.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that I think when I was reflecting on what other documentaries I've enjoyed and what characteristics they all show, I think that they do a good job of kind of bringing the viewer along, getting them on the directors or whoever the protagonist of the documentary is meant to be, so that we're following them through a journey and you're kind of rooting for some kind of outcome or a person. I think Michael Moore obviously has done a fantastic job of doing that in his films. Yeah. But we've seen that in other documentaries as well. The one that we reviewed last year on women in comics, the job of the documentary does a great job of getting you on the side of a viewpoint, and then you're kind of following the director, whomever, through the documentary, hoping to see an outcome or a change. Yeah. So I think if the point of this documentary is that chemicals are bad, or that, whatever particular chemicals are bad, it might have been more effective to maybe not focus so much on the personal history and kind of weakly creating the link between his wife dying of breast cancer and these smelly pajamas. Maybe focusing more on creating a drive and forward momentum of the documentary by maybe focusing more on the legislation, kind of going after the people that he was talking to, showing those interviews where we see arguments happening on the floor of the Senate or wherever, where they're having arguments where we're hearing things like, hard numbers, nothing's been banned. What are the lobbyists saying? Who are they supporting? And maybe the director could have shown more of following that path, interrogating people, and kind of showing the ignorance and the secrecy around these chemicals, and maybe building to something, a confrontation with somebody, or, I think taking the share out in the company and starting to go to those meetings was a foot in the right direction. But I think more of that type of content in this documentary would have given it a bit more forward propulsion and structure, whereas the way that it's done, I think, lacks that, and it's a bit, here and there.
Yeah. A little bit sensationalist.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to Mike about this earlier, and he brought up the subject of TIP. Tell us a bit about that. TIPP.
That's a trade agreement between the European Union and the US. Which is a secret negotiation in progress. And it looks, for all intents and purposes, that it's going to reduce European protections down to US standards.
Oh, no.
In order to facilitate cross-Atlantic trade. And
not bringing US standards up to EU standards.
No. And it's not kind of well advertised. A lot of people wouldn't be aware of it. But one of the scary things about it is that they've got a mechanism in it for companies to sue governments if governments enact laws which would cost companies money. So if you're selling pajamas that cause cancer and a government bans your pajamas, you can sue the government for loss of earnings.
Do you know, not to harp on about John Oliver, but he did a segment on Last Week Tonight that's come up a few times on his show about, I think, is it Marlborough has sued countries where their sale has been restricted. So we've seen some of this already.
Yeah, but this will be on a grand scale. This will be a continent-wide scale.
Well, I think Marlborough suing countries is a pretty grand scale, isn't it?
Yeah. Also, there was a famous thing. Monsanto sued farmers in. It was one of the New England states, either Vermont or New Hampshire. These farmers were a co-op that put on their milk labels that these were grass-fed cows that didn't have steroids or antibiotics. And Monsanto successfully got the label removed because they would lose money if the consumer knew that this milk wasn't fucked with, as opposed to the milk that came from Monsanto-based farms.
Yeah.
They won the case.
Wow. Jeez. Despite our criticisms of this, I have to say I found it very informative and generally very well put together. There was obviously a lot of time and effort and money put into it, actually. Even with the the intro animations, that kind of thing, I thought it was very good. I thought it flowed along nicely. I didn't deviate from it or start flicking around on my phone or anything like that, while watching this. I definitely think it's worth a watch. I'd recommend it, despite it not being the best documentary I've ever seen. But it's certainly worth a watch. There's a lot to be learned in there. Yeah. Even if I admit there's a bit of scaremongering. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I think on the whole, I think it's something that we should all watch, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you give it then if you were going to rate it?
I was going to rate it.
Not if you were going to rate it. This isn't a hypothetical thing now. You are going to rate it.
Rate it.
Give it to us.
No, I give it a strong 7. Yeah.
Wow.
For sure. Yeah.
I thought it lacked structure while the content was interesting. I think I would rather kind of read a quick fact sheet on this type of thing rather than sitting through the documentary, which I found quite slow and a bit higgledy-piggledy in terms of its flow and direction. So overall, I thought it was a fairly weak documentary, and I'm a big fan of good documentaries, so I would give it a 5, I think.
Mike?
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting, and something people should probably see just to inform themselves, but I thought it was a bit light on the science and a bit heavy on the emotion, so I'm going to give it a 5.
Oh yeah, it was heavy on the emotion. Oh God, my heartstrings. Yeah. Okay, so next up we've got the next of our movies, which is Sam Klemke's Time Machine. Sean, do you want to tell us a bit about this?
So since 1977, Sam Klemke, originally of Colorado, has been recording videos of himself. And he had this idea for a creative project where every year he would just kind of do a year in review, both for the world and maybe more specifically for him. So the film is basically, from then all the way up to now, putting together in chronological order and juxtaposing with world events, and other pieces of film, or photograph of the world, just looking at the story of his life as kind of the idea of the story of life. Of any human life, perhaps being the story of every human life.
Yeah, and I see the director draws a lot of parallels with this and the spaceship Voyager, which is traveling through space indefinitely, it seems, and it is carrying a golden disc, a very famous golden disc, which has
golden record,
which is a map to Earth, and it has input from all cultures, from all, what would you say, subcultures? Yeah,
like aspects of life. Yeah, exactly, like music and stuff like that. But it's a curated list of what life is, right?
That's right.
Which is pretty interesting because they had to make a selection because back then you could only get so much information on something.
Yeah, it's true. They're all going through their encyclopedias that they had on the wall. There's no Google.
Do we want any animals in this? We can have a bird. No animals. One bird. That's it.
Yeah, so he did this over 35 years, and it's kind of about a man who never really got his shit together. you know, and he knows it, and he proposes to do something about it every year, never does. You know, he just seems very disorganized, and he sort of cruises through life, and seems just too bloody lazy and self-absorbed to do anything about it. It's not that he's depressed, but he's certainly very moany about
He might be depressed, dude. I really think that he might be depressed.
But is this is self-inflicted depression, nearly, you know?
I don't know.
There is a point in the movie where he's the exact opposite, and he's hyper, and he loves life, and it's brilliant, and it's because he got off his ass and he did something about it, and he's not alone, you know? And, you know, you can see that all the times where 2 years later, then he's just like, Jesus, you know, my life's a mess again. But he starts saying that when he's like 22, and he's still saying that when he's in his 50s, you know? You know, it's like, you know, as if he'd never committed to anything apart from the life that he's currently leading. Like he didn't have any foresight as in, okay, this might take a couple of years, so let's go and do something, not necessarily study, but, you know, gain another skill, or like he was talking about doing a business, which seemed to peter out pretty quickly. And yeah, I didn't find him a particularly likable kind of guy because of that.
Well, in fairness, there are times when he doesn't find himself particularly likable either.
That's true. Yeah. It's true.
Like, I think he's very self-aware. It's so interesting to me, right? Because I went into this not knowing anything about this guy. I missed out on the viral video. He got kind of famous, internet famous, because of a viral video where he did like a time lapse, basically, of the footage they had up to that on YouTube, which got pretty popular. It's in the millions somewhere, you know.
1.4. I checked it earlier. Yeah.
There you go. So I missed that, so I knew nothing about him. So I immediately became interested, because it starts out when he's like, you very quickly get to around about the age I am, like early 20s.
Yeah.
Is a pretty like rapid journey.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of going like, okay, I can identify with like a couple of these things, like, because he wants to be famous immediately. He wants to be successful immediately. You know what I mean? He wants to move out. He wants all these things to happen straight away, which is a very natural instinct for a young person, you know?
Of course.
Same.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I start to get so sad, right? And I'm like, holy shit, because there's a rough patch. Like, there's a rough patch, and I was like, oh fuck, I'm emotionally invested in this guy without realizing it. And it's not going to go well. I'm so worried.
But on the same time, like this guy, this is a guy with no plan B. You know? Which I think is maybe dumb, but it's admirable. Like, it's kind of like a brave fool situation. You know? Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was kind of like, look, and maybe, like, listen, we're coming at this from two very different points of view as well, right? Yeah. Because our lives are both in very different, like, positions and shapes right now, right? Sure. Like, he kept doing this rundown of the things that are important to him. And here's what he always did. His car, whether or not his car was working, whether he had his own place, and whether or not he was living with someone, kind of in that order, which is so fucking weird. But you know what I mean? I can understand why those became the things, especially back then, 70s, 80s, you know? Yeah. And it seemed like whenever he got those things, the amount that he valued them had a short half-life. And that's so human. Like, I fucking hate how much this made me go, oh shit, I do this all the time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have never had to live in a car. Right? Yeah. But there are a couple of times when he, like, is living in his car, and I'm just like, oh fuck, he doesn't get it. Here's how much he values it. And then he loses it either through laziness or bad luck or whatever it is. We don't get to see a full year, right? Yeah. But it happens. And because it keeps happening, the only parallel we can draw is that he's the main factor. And then I'm just like, oh shit, I want things to go well for you again. And he ends up in at one of his lowest points, he ends up in Vegas. That's right. Yeah. In 1985 or something like that. And I just looked at it and I went, holy shit. Because I was waiting for him to get to 1990 when I was born. Because as the clips from Voyager are showing, right? The record of humanity, as limited as it was back then and as limited as it can only be, it includes us all. It's simply because it's trying to. You know what I mean? Like, it's literally saying we are the children of Earth. We are these people, this language, this music, these photos, whatever it is. And I felt like connected to him, not just because I was watching his life story, although that was probably the main thing, but I was like, I'm about to become a part of this story of life. Right. And there's 1990. Cool. I'm in it. You know what I mean? And I was just kind of like, this is really interesting. And I wanted it to go so well for him. And I think eventually that changed.
because, and the movie definitely did, I think, a great job of the edit. It even talks about the making of the film itself. I think it did a great job of going, do you remember that scene where he sat down and his review was basically just a bunch of different things that were important?
Right.
And he said stuff like trust, like love, life. And that list of things, I was like, okay, this is the pretty much sum total of what he believes to be important, which is also the sum total of what he has learned. And it's weird that those things are kind of the same as what he knew at the start, but it's so clear that he has a different understanding and appreciation for them now, which he will forget. He will forget this moment, even though he's the one who records it and puts it down. Like, he forgets these things. Like, we think he has love and he just moves on. He has a very derogatory phrase at one point where he says, I hope that she'll just, I hope we can just fade her out.
Yeah.
About a girl he's dating. And I just went, fuck you.
Yeah,
fuck you. I cannot believe you. Like, you went through so much to get to this point.
But you kind of have to remember that all these recordings were never intended to be seen by anyone else, really. They were for himself. So, which
is good. I like that they're honest.
Well, then you have the honesty to it. But sometimes the honesty to it doesn't lend himself to be a watchable character. Like, he does criticize whatever partner he's at. I can't remember which one at the time.
He always says they're critical.
He always says she's hypercritical or something like that. It's some sort of cut down. Yeah. So what about the entertainment side of it?
The entertainment is in how entertained was I throughout,
or how entertaining was he? Like he has several attempts at humor that didn't quite work. I think we saw a little bit too much of him as well at times that we didn't need to see. I mean, there's some things in this that the phrase, what has been seen can't be unseen.
Yeah,
it was just like, I wish I hadn't seen that.
That was unexpected, right?
Yeah.
And I was kind of in a mode where I was asking myself, I was thinking a lot through this movie, like why are we being shown this? And I think they really do a great job of explaining that. The picture of a very specific and warts and all view of Sam Klemke's life that we get, even if it isn't one that we've all had, right? Because obviously everyone's experience is incredibly different and everyone is different. But there are so many things in it that are just true of people. We are sometimes very lazy. We try things, we learn things we love, we lose things, and then we forget about all these things that we've learned. Like, one thing that I kept thinking was, it took me a while to realize that if I just went and exercised, if I was feeling kind of down in the dumps, if I was like angry or frustrated, whatever it was, if I just did a bunch of exercise, I would feel better after.
Oh, for sure.
Or if I did anything active to take control of my life. And he keeps learning that and fucking forgetting it. And but that was such a human thing as well, And as it gets further into the film, I feel he becomes more and more bogged down. And perhaps at the moments when he is looking back on his life, more desperate, because things do start to happen for him. Whether it's that viral video or whatever,
For sure. And, his biggest problem, I think, is self-discipline in all aspects of this. All of it, the fact that he's gone viral, it wasn't something that he did on purpose. It was almost happened by accident. In fact, it did happen by accident. It was someone else that introduced him to the whole thing, and YouTube and what it could do for him, and he being the first vlogger and so on, And it was the director that
did the video, and he was the one who had the footage.
He did, but he didn't have the vision for it. He didn't see what it was going to go for. He was recording it for himself, and he didn't have the vision to take it to the next step where he could back catalog it like they have done, go through the archive. Now they said that 100. I can't remember how many hours.
120.
That was after going through and summarizing it. They had it down to 110, 120 hours or something, and try and make that down into 90 minutes. Now, granted, a huge task, but I really wonder, did they capture the best bits? Because you do see bits that weren't shown, and some of it sort of appealed to me more than the scenes that they did show from the same tape, let's say. Granted, I don't know, I'd say there was a lot of stuff they had to go through and just go, no.
Yeah, and I bet it was all kind of, I think a lot of it was really similar though, because I can only imagine that guy kvetching, as he says, complaining a fair amount in his videos.
Yeah.
And that is certainly an aspect of, I guess, selfie culture right now, you know, like it does take a look at YouTube culture a little bit.
Yeah.
At this idea of, well, what are we really doing? Like, does anyone actually give a crap about what we're doing? And is it pointless? And they talk about that with regards to Voyager as well. One of the maybe most noble things we've ever tried to do with capturing images and sound on a record.
Yeah. Was it just a unifying exercise? Get people interested in this space program rather than an actual genuine attempt to, you know, put us out there, you know?
And we could ask a similar question of this. We could say, is Sam Klemke's Time Machine just an exercise in vanity that got turned into a movie about a kind of broken guy who never really figures out how to fix himself?
Yeah, it is.
But, well, it is, but it is also, I really truly think that, like, in watching this movie, I just felt like life is most of the time a noble failure. I'm sure that the most successful people in the world still think that they could have done more or better.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
Hindsight,
and
fantastic thing.
Maybe. Exactly, yeah. But I just really think that that was kind of beautiful because it also just says, hey, you're never going to get this time back. And if you can be like Sam if you want, or you can actually, you know, cherish the things that you learn and the people that you meet and the things you actually do get to do. And like he says himself, you know, talking like a 28-year-old when he's 54, you don't have to do that. You know, you can just go and try and have the best failures possible. You know, it's like that old quote, like try, fail better.
Yeah, well, you know, it's just as you mature and you educate yourself, you know, through trying and failing and experience and so on. But he didn't seem to get outside his world bubble. So he didn't seem to get that either.
Steve.
You know, he was going, like he said, I'm going to this festival 21 years, you know, the same place.
Steve, you just said he didn't get outside his world bubble. And I think given the ending of the film and given the big discussion that they had about Voyager, that might be a perfect little denouement to what actually happened in my point of view of the film.
Okay. Literally then. Maybe, yeah. Okay, so how do you want to mark this then?
I mean, feel free to mark it as a film. I'm going to be marking it for what it was trying to do and what it gave me. I don't know. I enjoyed it, but more on a like intellectual thinking about the movie, think about myself, thinking about people and the world, which I think is an important thing for a documentary to try and do.
Yeah. See, I don't see it as maybe it's just because I'm coming from a different angle at it. That I don't see it as, oh, this is how my life could go. Because I've gone through most of the years that he's gone through already, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of looking at, oh, look what he didn't do that he could have done. And I think maybe that's where it you know, he started to sort of piss me off a bit. But anyway, yeah, no.
You were telling him to cop on. You were just going, cop on.
Man, it's just a few times. It's just like, will you get your shit together, man? You know, come on. You know, he's given out about it in his 30s like he was 19. You know, that kind of way. It's just like he still didn't understand what he's not what he's supposed to do, but what he wanted to do. You know. But anyway, actually, that was interesting. He does interview some high school buddies at the 10-year anniversary. And I thought that was really good because it's like, what do you want to do? He interviewed them at the end of high school and then at the anniversary. And there's only one person that is doing what they said they were going to do. You know, I want to be, a choir director. And
I direct choirs.
He directs choirs. Yeah, you know? Brilliant. Anyway, I can't see myself recommending this to too many people, but I do know one or two that would enjoy it. All right, within, let's say, my immediate friends. I think I would throw it in around a 6. You know, it's a good documentary. It's a good documentary of the man's life. You know, he doesn't have to be likable for it to be good. But I do have to say, I kind of faded out now and again and had to go back a bit and go, oh yeah, what did he say there? You know, but yeah, that's where I'm sitting around a 6. Yeah, so a little over average. Yeah.
I think Sam Klemke's Time Machine achieves a story of people through the story of a guy, which is what I think it was trying to do. So I'm going to give this I'm going to be recommending this to everyone. I've literally already texted people about this movie. I'm going to give this an 8.
An 8. Wow.
An 8 out of 10. I mean, I would probably watch this movie again in 10 years.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, I've been a fucking idiot for doing X, Y, and Z. I should learn my lesson.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or maybe listen to this podcast. Yeah. All right, cool. Okay. Next up, we've got some previews and Coming to a Bicycle near you. So the first one isn't really a preview. It's more of an ad. It's called The Rat, and it's for Netflix. Yeah, I put this on because I thought it was original. It addresses a couple of issues that we all encounter with new series, and that you mentioned earlier, Mark. But I thought it was just a good approach to it. What do we think?
This was interesting to watch, just because, like you said, it's something I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
Once you watch the whole trailer, I suppose we can kind of go into it,
You
right?
can set the scene.
Yeah, the trailer.
Yeah.
So we start with somebody who's being interrogated. He's being covered in honey. There's a pile of rats below him. And the tension in the scene is whether or not he's going to be dumped into the pile of rats covered in honey, and then assuming
By the bad guys.
being eaten. Yeah, exactly. But basically, it kind of turns into a comedy where your man makes kind of a flippant comment about plot in Orange is the New Black, and the bad guy who's interrogating him gets kind of pissed off because he's like, I hadn't seen that far. You know, before you start disclosing plot points in a show,
You should ask me where I was.
you should be
at.
asking what season, what episode I'm on. That's just common courtesy. And the guy's like, I'm sorry. And he's just like, well, listen, it's just, you should be asking people this. And at this point in the trailer, it basically becomes choose your own adventure, where it pauses and it says, dump him to the rats or get over it. It's just a TV show, and you're meant to select one, and then there's a different outcome depending on what you selected. So that was definitely unique and interesting.
It was.
My only question is what's this a trailer for? Like, what's the show about? I don't understand.
I think it's just
It's a
Netflix,
victory lap. Yeah, it's a victory lap for Netflix. Just going, we know you guys care about it a lot. Haha, click one of these things. Don't you like us? Millennials love us.
Is this a new show called The Rat that's coming?
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh, this is just like a
It's just a
PSA.
thing,
Don't
yeah.
give away plot.
Yeah.
Oh.
What did you guys pick?
That confused me.
I said fuck him.
So did
Oh.
I. Dump him.
I said save him. Screw you guys.
I said save him too.
I kept thinking of Mark when I was watching this. He's the type of person who would definitely get upset.
Yeah. Did you go back and click the other one then, just to see what would happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, this is really confusing. I thought that this was a trailer for something
See,
called
and
The
this-
Rat.
I did
I
as
got
well,
really
yeah,
confused
yeah.
about
Yeah.
its purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely look it up. It's great. I might stick it up on our Facebook page later, actually. It's
Yeah,
uh,
worth a
do.
look.
It does raise a point of people needing to be considerate about Netflix. It's very difficult because we never know where people are at. Are you binge watching? Are you kind of watching, one here or there? At what point, even if someone hasn't seen a show, is it okay to discuss,
Yeah.
Very good points.
Yeah.
And in the spirit of that, be prepared to have a plot point in Orange is the New Black spoiled for you if you watch this.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Which I actually hadn't seen this season. I got a few episodes in and I just kind of got bored with it. And I thought, I'm in this predicament. But then I don't care because I hadn't bothered watching the rest of Orange is the New Black. So.
So, next one is The Knight of Cups, which stars Kristen Bale
Kate Blanchett.
and Natalie Portman and Teresa Palmer. Is that right? Kate Blanchett and who else? Wes Bentley. And Imogen Poots is actually in as well. So it's about a screenwriter living in LA, and he tries to make sense of some strange events occurring around him.
Caused by him taking a lot of drugs and alcohol.
It must be.
Yeah. I had no idea what the hell this is about.
It reminded me of like a remake of Leaving Las Vegas with Christian Bale. Well, I guess that's just from the drugs and alcohol, right? But the story seems to be about love and him basically being really, really drunk and stoned talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. IMDb tells us Rick is a slave to the Hollywood system. He's addicted to success, but simultaneously despairs at the emptiness of his life. He's at home in a world of illusions, but seeks real life. Like the tarot card of the title, Rick is easily bored and needs outside stimulation, but the Knight of Cups is also an artist, a romantic, and an adventure.
Sounds like
I immediately went and looked up the Knight of Cups tarot card because recently on a date at tarot card reading ended a relationship of mine. Anyway, we'll talk about it later. So the Knight of Cups, I really liked reading this description and then putting myself in the, like, as people do with things like tarot cards, astrology, etc. You like, people are looking for them in these things. They're looking for meaning to them in these things. So the Knight of Cups is a young knight on a white horse holding a cup as if he is a messenger. He is all about creativity, as you were discussing, art, creation, romance, seduction, etc. But as with most tarot cards readings, there is an opposite, an inverse, if the card were to come out the other way up, which is when he is pretty much allowing his emotions to control his life too much, moody, jealous, emotional to the point of incapacity, jumping to conclusions, etc., etc. And it's like, I think that it might be, because I think this is a stylistic trailer rather than a plot trailer, but I feel like there's a relationship that he is putting at risk because he wants to go out and get more experience, i.e. have sex with other women, and do kisses and various things of that nature. And so I was kind of like, holy shit, this is going to be really about life and the choices that we need to make in our relationships and yada yada. And if it doesn't have a happy ending, I'm going to be broken at the end of it.
Yeah, he did mention this. Some days you like strawberry.
Yeah.
Some days you like raspberry.
That's right.
I'm interested. I don't know.
Yeah,
about you
I'm
guys.
interested too. Yeah. I think I'll have to stick it on the list when it comes in.
Don't you be doing that.
Yeah. The last one I looked at is called The Bronze, which is about a foul-mouthed former gymnast, bronze medalist, who must fight for local celebrity status when a new young athlete star rises in town. This looks kind of funny. It's a dramedy, for sure. Yeah. What do you think of this?
I thought this looked pretty funny.
Yeah.
I liked her potty mouth. She's got some good insults in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Gary Cole's in this. Melissa Roach is the main protagonist. That's it. What's the character's name? It's a funny one. Hang on. Hope Annabelle Gregory, actually. Yeah. What do you think? Will you watch this?
Definitely.
See the guy from Silicon Valley's in it, Thomas Middleditch. Yeah, I like him, so up for this.
Yeah.
Did you see this?
No, these added to the list later on.
Probably.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
It's worth watching this one.
All right.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's all we have for this week. Yeah. It's been a good one. It's a long one.
Can we just
lots of good discussion and food for thought.
Can we just cross our fingers and hope that Mr. Abrams finishes Star Wars? There's only 3 weeks to go. Please finish it.
It's not.
Wait, is there rumors that he won't be finished?
He was interviewed today, I think, and he said it's not finished. There's half a dozen things he has yet to do.
Wait, it's going into wide release in 3 weeks?
Fucking go do those 6 things.
Like post-production.
He said they're small things, but they're quite important.
Well, if they're small, they're not
small
unimportant.
things before breakfast.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
That sounds like you masturbate a lot.
What do you mean sounds like?
There's no implication. Okay, we'll leave it there. So from Mike, Mark, Steve, Shona, stay classy.